Hello and welcome. Who justifies murder in the name of family honor? Well, each year 5,000 women and girls are killed, according to UN estimates, often by a male family member. Their reasoning? The girls have brought shame on them, they say. Well, there are no borders for these crimes. They've occurred in Western countries, including Canada, the UK and United States, as well as throughout the Middle East, Africa and Asia. The women may be accused of dishonoring their family for any number of reasons. They may have been the victim of rape or incest. They may have left their husband or wore clothing deemed inappropriate. The one constant factor with these crimes is a conspiracy of silence aimed at protecting the perpetrators. In some countries, the law may even allow a man to walk free if his defense claims he acted out of honor. On today's show, we look at the controversial issue of honor killings and ask what more needs to be done to bring this practice to a close. Remember, you can join our conversation with your questions and comments, and you can send an SMS or email, or you can phone into the show. We'll take those calls. Joining me now is investigative journalist and author Rana Husseini, a senior reporter at the Jordan Times. She brought attention to the issue of so-called honor killings. Through her role as a regional coordinator for UNIFEM, she worked with their campaign to eliminate violence against women in 5 Arab countries. She's just published Murder in the Name of Honor, which exposes honor killings committed across the globe. From Ankara, I'm joined by Dr. Yakin Ertürk, a professor of sociology at the Middle East Technical Institute, where she's chair of the Gender and Women's Study Program. Until very recently, she served as the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women. I thank you both for joining us, and Rana, I'll start with you. Nice to speak with you again.
Thank you.
Now, for many people, the idea of honor killings happening on such a large scale, still happening on such a large scale, is very disturbing. Now, I guess from your research, did you come across any clear mindset that makes people commit these murders?
I think most people, the families that choose to do this, they do it because they believe that their female relative did something wrong that sullied their honor. So they think that by killing their female relative that they are solving the problem.
Now, you yourself witnessed an honor killing in 1994, I gather.
Yes.
What happened?
It was a young girl, 16-year-old, who was raped by one of her brothers, and basically her family blamed her for the rape. She was a victim because she became pregnant, underwent a secret abortion. Her brother tried to kill her. She was married off to a man 34 years older than her, and then 6 months later, the man divorced her. And the day he divorced her, they killed her, and they blamed her for the rape and accused her of seducing her brother who raped her. So to me, this was shocking. I mean, it's not like something that you hear every day in Jordan, but this was basically the story that moved me and made me do everything I'm doing today.
Now, with the book, Murder in the Name of Honor, what impact has it had on you personally doing the research? Of course, some very harrowing stories. How has it affected you personally going through all that?
Actually, I'm a very energetic person and very sociable, and I do many activities so that it will not get to me. I've been doing it for 16 years. And I also even cover regular murders, not only so-called honor killings. So I do other things. I play sports, I go out with friends, I watch movies. I mean, I do many activities so it will not get to me. But sometimes there are certain crimes that you can never forget.
Dr. Yakin Ertürk, good to have you with us as well from Ankara. And I wonder what, if any, concerted effort there is to tackle this issue at a global level, perhaps to create some real change in the mindset of the people who commit these crimes.
Well, as you may know, the issue of violence against women in general has been on the agenda of the international community for the past 15, 16 years. And honor crimes as a specific form of violence against women is a more recent attention. As these kinds of crimes have happened in metropolitan centers, Western centers, I think people started identifying them as something specific and pertaining to certain cultural groups, which unfortunately is an unfortunate distortion because violence is a more universal phenomena and which is patriarchal control over women. And honor, the so-called honor crimes, is a particular form of these kinds of crimes. Therefore, we need to make sure that we don't take it out of its patriarchal context and associate it with certain cultural groups, because that leads to other problems and it makes the struggle against honor-related crimes more difficult.
Let me, Dr. Ertürk, let me put to you a couple of comments, interesting comments we had from our viewers. The first one is from Ohio, where Salman Pirzada, here in the US, wrote in saying, "None of this is allowed in Islam, but since these incidents are more common in Muslim countries, it is labeled as an Islamic tradition to abuse women." And then a related comment from Saudi Arabia, where Rashid Orakzai wrote in saying, honor killings have nothing to do with Islam. There is more a function of tribal culture and traditions, and due to poverty, lack of education and good governance. Now, I guess it should be pointed out there's a very negative stereotype of those committing these honor killings, and it is usually labeled as being something that's Muslim. That's pretty much wrong, though, from what you were saying about the diversity of these crimes.
Yes, absolutely. I think there are many justifications of violence against women, whether it is referred to religion or culture. But because of the incidents taking place mainly in Muslim majority societies, there has been this kind of association made. But it is not the religion per se, but it is the control over women justified in whatever terms it is that we need to look at.
Well, Rana, you actually, in your book, you touch on a number of cases, and they may be committed culturally in that sort of Middle Eastern environment, but they aren't necessarily related to religion.
Exactly. I agree with Dr. Yaqeen in what she said. I have covered several cases of Christian women who were killed in Jordan, and there are reports of Christian women being killed in other parts of the world. Even in Italy, there were 2 men who killed their sisters who are Italian. You see these crimes happening in countries like Pakistan, India, among different religions. In Iraq, a Yazidi woman was stoned to death. So you have it everywhere. It's not really restricted to any religion as much as it's tribal and cultural. But maybe people think it is more committed in the Arab world because the population of the Muslims is very high. You're talking about 95% of the population in the Arab world are Muslims. So it's only natural that you will have more crimes committed by Muslims than Christians, per se.
It's interesting. You've touched in your book on something that Dr. Ertug has alluded to, and that is that it's a shift from a third world problem, as you put it, to a first world. What has prompted that? What's triggered that?
I think that, as Dr. Yaruk said now, that the world is paying more attention to these crimes. It's becoming more visible on the agenda of the UN, NGOs, even governments. I mean, for the past 10 years, you've been seeing this issue in specific being addressed by many countries. For example, there's a lot of work that was done in Jordan, in Pakistan, in Yemen, in Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Turkey. So these groups, the governments, even the leadership in these countries, it all brought this issue to the attention and pushed it actually to the surface. And I think it's very important, you know, because in the past it used to be only like female genital mutilation. Now they talk about so-called honor killings, forced marriages, trafficking. So you have things now being addressed in a more global perspective.
But of course it's also happening with communities that are based in Western centres as well, which I guess is a big factor. Now we've got a call from Nigeria on the line. Sibi, good to have you with us. What would you like to ask or say?
Yes, good day.
Hi.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I want to commend your effort in bringing this kind of program. And in fact, my name is not CB, it's CB.
CB,
CB, S-I-D-I.
Got it, thank you.
The average person, this kind of crime against women, it is criminal. It's shameful. So I want to believe that these people who perpetrate this kind of crime, they have psychological problems. And I just want to say that they should be at least examined by psychiatrists.
Well, Sibi, you raise an interesting point, and I guess Dr. Ertug, I can touch on this. I mean, Sibi is saying that he feels that there is a psychological problem here with the people who commit these crimes. But I'm wondering, is enough interest, or at least enough focus, given to the fact that there are strong cultural forces here, and in some cases in these communities, there's the issue of kinship, for example, where the community is stronger than the individual, and a person almost has no choice but to follow the will of the community, and people are forced to make decisions sometimes they personally might not even want to take.
I think one of the things that we need to specify when we're talking about honor crimes as opposed to other types of crimes against women is the concept of honor, which of course has cultural elements, and it is a very alien concept to Western societies in particular, because honor, in the context of honor crimes, is the honor of the entire family or the community. So it's that collective entity that becomes part of monitoring of a woman's sexual conduct. So unfortunately, we cannot reduce it to a psychology, but it is this control over women, whether it takes its force from cultural justifications or something else is irrelevant here. But it is the collective entity that sees its business to ensure that the woman they're affiliated with behave the way they're supposed to. And when this is violated, then the stain is not only on the woman, but it's perceived to be on the wider group, whether it's the family or tribal groups. So it's this collective aspect of it I think we need to concentrate a little bit more, because the approval system of the male behavior also is embedded in the collectivity. A man whose honor is presumably has been stained cannot walk on the street with his head high, as they often say, because the shame is upon him. So this relational system, I think, which makes honor-related crimes sustainable, whether back home in or in the immigrant communities where people migrate to Western centers or metropolitan centers.
Rana, chip in here before I take the next caller.
Yeah, I just want to add that I think that many of these men who kill are really victims also of the society and their surroundings, because I don't believe that really a man wants to kill his female relative that he grew up with, but the social pressure that they put this man in, you know, they tell him, if you don't do it, people will look down on us, we will be outcast. So they basically turn a normal human being into a killer.
And I gather it's often like almost like a posse mentality, a group mentality. They're thriving off each other's sense of pressure as well.
Yes.
Now, we've got a caller on the line from Somalia. Good to hear from Somalia. Siad, what would you like to ask?
Yes, sir. My question is very simple. Thank you very much.
Please.
You know, there is no honor killing in Islam, and no one's allowed to kill anyone in Islam. The problem is that this is very old tradition which not implies Islam. My question is, what is the best way to avoid this? What can be done not to happen this, especially in the Asian countries?
Right. Siad, I'm going to touch on that, and also how the law often protects the people who commit these crimes, and because Rana has some interesting points on that in her book. So I'm going to get back to that in a moment. As we take a short break, we'll have more of that discussion. Get your questions ready and join us in just a moment.